Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I suggest that we begin. The audience is not really big, probably because of the way we called our session. As you all can see, if you are not forced into this room, is if it's really possible to bring up an inventor. I'm not going to speak myself. I'm honored to act as a moderator of this session. Nevertheless, I'll make a kind of brief introduction of the topic. I've been dealing with this question for a long time, and we have distinguished three elements in the capacity of an inventor. The first one being knowledge, the other one being skills, and the last but not least one being creativity, or a kind of intuitive feeling, intuition, which allows true creators to come up with new ideas which can be transformed into new products. If we look back, we will see that when knowledge and broad skills were not available, our predecessors, thousands of years ago, mostly relied upon this intuitive component, which gave rise to, according to Nassim Taleb, which gave rise to religion. Before the advent of religion, this entity was called credo, and dependent on the beliefs, it is based on beliefs that decisions were made by humans. Today, our system of education, being a primary tool, is actually intended to help develop this entity. And we can distinguish between the different levels of education. We know that professional education is responsible for skills. Knowledge is dealt with by higher learning, while creativity is dealt with by nobody. There are various centers, such as those to develop creativity of the youth and so forth, and it is exactly what is being dealt with by the experts present here on the stage. The school, which was not mentioned, is most likely to be killing creativity. Why? All the manuals that are used by school children are based on a deductive model. When explaining any theorem, the final result is offered by the teacher, and then we engage in proving. There is no need for pupil to engage in any research. Therefore, schooling should be reorientated to more inductive development, and all the other levels of education need to be integrated within a framework of networking or network-based integration. I have a question to all the participants, and I suggest that we start from Dmitry Voloshin. What's going on with the real sector today? More specifically, what brought Rostec to the decision to put in place a system of corporate education? Thank you, Marina. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for coming to attend our event. I would also like to say thank you to RANEPA. It's my fourth time at this event, and as I see, the level of discussion is becoming higher and higher year over year. As to the needs of Rostec, the situation is both plain and simple and complex. Nowadays, our corporation is in the process of global transformation. In order to be able to become one of top 5 global corporations in terms of revenues, first of all, and to achieve that, we need to diversify our product and service portfolio, which means migrating to civilian products. By 2020, we're planning to reach a level of 50%, which is a significant challenge to our corporate divisions, our managers. Well, in order to achieve that, we have to think about working with our human capital, about making sure that our units are capable of developing civilian products. If you're familiar with our organization, you understand that our operations are about long-term planning with a decade horizon. While in working with civilian products, we have to be agile. The notion of agility is extremely important today. It's also about teamwork and all those other things which are opposite to the approaches used in the defense industry. And one of the purposes of putting in place our corporate academy is the development of soft knowledge, creativity, emotional intelligence, collaboration skills. We have about 700,000 employees today. There will be new ones. They will be coming in the process of our transformation. This is the context. Marina also mentioned networking, which is a specificity or a landmark of the state we want to reach. In fact, we are not planning to reinvent the wheel. We are not going to build any university campus in Moscow area. We are not going to invite any rector from St. Petersburg, as is normally done. I apologize for that. But in this country, in its education services market, all the components are present to pursue the goals of enterprise education. We would rather act as knowledge operator through transforming what's available out there on the market and bring it to our divisions. Thank you, Dmitry. And now I'd like to ask question to Valery Nikolaevich and the other participants. As you know, in the end of the year, new priority projects were issued with passports. The Christmas and New Year holidays are over, and we're back to work. And we see some very important tasks to be fulfilled in order to implement those projects. And one of the challenges is the lack of footing for education integration. Some time ago, Article 15 was made effective, but as of today, we don't have any capabilities for open and transparent interaction. I'll give you a simple example. My federal organization got a service from your institution last year. We want this service to be provided by your institution, but we had to complete with Law 144, which is about bidding, which law says that it can be bidders can be any organizations capable of coming up with their offerings. However, me as customer, I want to be sure that I'll get the result that I want. With this in mind, we engaged in a new project which is designed to help us understand the meaning of network-based operation, including sharing procedures, socialization. There will be a separate question about it. And one more point, Vladimir, there will be a question to you. We believe that since the system of additional education is key, and we are in the very beginning of it, in bringing up inventors and developing in them proper knowledge and skills. However, unfortunately, while investing a lot in the various programs and projects, both the government and ourselves, as the main stakeholder, do not see any feedback. Probably it's worthwhile introducing a compulsory examination for such additional education system participants, and should this examination be passed, a portfolio, child's portfolio, can be given the final go-ahead. My question is as follows. The existing higher learning system envisages checking actual knowledge, what our children know from the different sciences. Well, should there be any gap, we can compensate for it. For example, if previously child was engaged in engineering and fails to explain what Maxwell equation is about, well, we can still admit such a child in order to later compensate for the lack of this knowledge. What can you say about this? Too many questions within one question. I should have put it down. I'd rather start from something else. When I first read the name of our title, is it possible to bring up an inventor? I initially thought about treason, which I came to know first in the 1970s. And I thought that the discussion would be based on that rather than creativity. It referred me to the Altschuler system. There are quite a lot of followers of that system in not only in the area of technology, but also in many other areas. But you articulated your question differently. You mentioned interfacing the school and the higher learning. If we want to address the question if it's possible to bring up an inventor, we should understand where there may be demand for such inventors with all their creativity. For those inventors not to invent for the sake of invention only. And I have quite significant doubts. On the higher learning side, I don't see clearly who will be the employers or consumers of those creative people and their creativity. The demand does not appear to be very big, at least in Russia. I mean, for such people, their skill sets and competences, in terms of how they can be transformed into new products or ideas. I think that we should always approach this question from the demand side. Getting back to schooling, The networked university is a great thing. They work with school children and so on. The senior generation knows that additional education in schools was not provided by school teachers. It was provided by actual specialists in their respective areas with no pedagogical education background. In the 1970s, treason was dealt with, was used pretty actively, and the demand was clear. And people could earn extra money. Students, postgraduate students could earn money in addition to their salaries. Therefore, we should look at the demand side. If we look at it from the perspective of the relations between the higher learning system and the school, each university is interested in acquiring students. And the success can be explained by the concept, and they universities, they go to schools. Yes, as a networked community, there may be legal entities. We may not neglect the legal framework. We'll have to comply with either 144 or 233, the federal laws. With such legal entities in place, I don't think that our existing legislation will allow changing the existing competitive system. If the higher learning institutions want to acquire students, they must go to schools and look at additional education programs. And it's highly desirable that they don't come on their own. They should come with their customers, the future consumers, employers. There are quite a lot of technologies and schemes for that, and I suggest that we refrain from discussing them here. You're all well familiar with them. But the fact that there is a gap between the school and the higher levels of education, impeding the transformation of knowledge into products, is still here. We should understand why we're doing all those different things. And I distinguish three stakeholders: those providing additional education to school children, first; second, high learning institutions; and third, employers who do need inventors. I'm in no position to speak for entire Russia. However, describing the situation in St. Petersburg, I think my two hands with 10 fingers will be enough to name all those who generate such demand. Potential employers. If we look into all those reports, we will see that innovative products and services are redundant, but the demand is not sufficient to consume everything. The situation is far from ideal. I would hate to go into the legal component of this question. It's always possible to bypass all those various. However, putting in place such centers or end-to-end chains will help us to eliminate the existing barriers that are present in schools, higher learning institutions, as well as in the relations between the learning establishments and employers. And there are specific tools for that. The only thing we need is to put in place a proper system to use them. Vladimir, how about examination? You forgot about exams. Well, here everything is plain and simple. Everything is determined and decided on by the actual higher learning institution. It's up to the institution to admit or not to admit. In our university, any participation in any project, we just give points. No, we are speaking about model exams or examination systems to be integrated with the existing children's education system. We always try to formalize things. I don't like this approach. Yes, we will have exams, and again, children will prepare themselves for them, and tutors will come on stage with their drills rather than teaching, instead of teaching. And we will find ourselves with the existing situation again. People will be doing those drills in order to be certified, and again we will lose the creativity we have been looking for. So I don't think that we should approach it from the side of examination. I think we should proceed from specific products we need. If there is demand for a product, and if such a product is offered by a school child at a certain site, in this case, the participation of school children in such project, not exam but project, will be worthwhile. You are speaking about teamwork. Okay, Ivan, I understand that it's pointless asking questions to you. You're right. I will try to build upon what was mentioned by my colleague before me. I'm really afraid of those exams. I prefer the approach of MTI and to other universities with their contests. I'm not sure about how they're going to apply the team building approach. If they are going to admit all the members of the team or select the best ones. We expected some good things to be finished before the new year. An Olympiad was started. Several regions reached terms on their own. They select based on points. One is expected to have at least 10 points. And the tasks that are set must be serious. We need other kinds of new students with fundamental knowledge. Therefore, such inventive tasks should also be very serious. Getting back to this Olympiad, in every region, 2 or 3 regions participating to the process. This effort was launched. The tasks are developed by those universities because it will be them to admit those new students. I like this approach. It's the right approach. This system works. There is additional education, and pupils take part in this competitive process. I always distinguish between innovation and invention. And I'm interested in innovation more than in invention. I'm an inventor myself. When I was a school child, I wrote some paper. It was not because I wanted to earn money. For my PhD paper, it was prerequisite. I required a couple of certificates. But I'm not a true innovator. And I was not actually going to transform my inventions into specific products. And today we are mostly interested in innovation. As to invention, well, we're in no position to halt this process. Inventors will continue to invent regardless of the presence or absence of demand. There are inventors inventing things with no demand at all. They'll keep on inventing. They will ruin their family budgets, but they'll keep on inventing. Those inventor guys can't help inventing, and they have to be brought up. And I don't agree that something is destroyed by the school. Developing invention skills is a normal process which should be present in the system of school education and not mandatorily compulsory education. It is imperative of innovative economics. A true inventor can help inventing. For those folks, the meaning of life is in inventing. And we know it based on our own experience. Well, if you want to transform an innovator into an inventor, you are in a no-go situation. Don't waste your effort. That is why I prefer the approach pursued by our center. We have been trying to identify the innovation gene, find inventive potential in our participants. Not all of those folks are inventors. Our participants are very proud of one of our students who is going to graduate next year. And this is the kind of individuals our participants have been looking for. This is exactly the gal that we should pursue. But it gives rise to another pretty complex question. Additional education centers are most frequently supported by people who cannot live without creative children all the way around. I mean those tutors, coaches, trainers, former athletes or amateur inventors, radio amateurs, some of whom may eventually prove to be great specialists. What's going on in our country today. All those things that the government is trying to pack into the system of compulsory, of additional education. And there is a law on it, according to which this entire system is license-based, which translates into prosecutor's office investigators coming to those centers to ask questions, embarrassing questions, such as, show me your license. And to obtain such a license, such a center is expected to have a canteen, cloakroom, shower room, and so on and so forth, with proper medical examination, medical checkups for teachers and coaches and tutors. And we're thinking about it today. We should either move such additional education centers from the system, from the domain of this law, which gives rise to a new set of questions. And it is great that we are discussing this at Gaidar Forum, because it's part of our economy, and we have been discussing the prospects of our economy. Vladimir, for God's sake, I don't have enough fingers on my both hands and feet to count all the St. Petersburg-based companies and firms that have been looking continuously children with great ideas. I spoke to many people such as Eurofarm, Miocad, and many others, several dozens of them. Well, there is demand. I am sure that such demand exists from both Rostec and others. This process of bringing up an inventor should be formalized in a positive meaning of it. I mean, the schooling system and so forth. However, formalizing the innovative process may be challenging, and we should rely upon tools such as Olympiads, contests. That is why the MTI's contest was launched somewhere at the level of class 10, 11, maybe 9. Parents start telling their children, stop wasting time, you will be joining university next year, here is money for your tutors. Well, they should be offered something to make sure that their children will be able to reach this 10-point level at least. Well, that's it actually, very briefly. Thank you very much, Vladimir. I will allow myself to speak out. As far as examination in the sphere of additional education is concerned, I totally agree that we should give up this practice. We proceeded from the premise that by putting in place an additional education center and engaging in offering high-level training for children, we should look at achieving obvious results. In many regions, it's only about mocking up aircraft or doing like things. We need a system that will be capable of funding such centers, thanks to which children will switch to more systemic approaches, including mastering technologies, and so forth. As far as trees and other methodologies are concerned, they are extremely important, and we don't think that they should only fall within the domain of additional education. Why don't we use it in schooling? Things such as result-based education and so forth, they should become part of school education. And my next question goes to Alexey, head of the Industry Development Foundation. What prevails today in terms of businesses' demand?
Is it demand for technology specialists, maybe new competences in the grade and secondary education, or great skills? I don't know, speaking of the sport of higher achievements, elite sport, or maybe it's a need in innovators and those people who are giving us new product. Thank you very much for your question. It's on one hand it's difficult, on the other hand it's very relevant, because looking at those biddings that we have in our foundation, looking at the companies we've been working with, I can say that it's a sad picture oftentimes, I have to admit, although I am very happy that these kind of projects do exist, that the new projects are being implemented. In 2 years, we've supported over 250 projects in the industry. Why is it sad sometimes? Because everybody is usually aiming at a short-term result. Everyone now seems to be willing to take advantage of this import substitution program in Russia. And in view of these economic changes in Russia, changing of the Russian exchange rate, etc., there are very few companies who are thinking about long-term prospects. And I'm thinking about innovations as something which has a longer horizon. You can get more profit, but not today, not immediately. And here I see very big threat for Russian economy and for the Russian industries. But I'm hoping that the landscape will be changing for better. And here I'm joining to the question stated by Vladimir, and you've reformulated, namely, is there a demand? As a matter of fact, that yes, there is a demand. We have been working also with Western companies coming to Russia, and those Western companies, of course, they are thinking about the market capacity, cost of resources, and other classical data which is taken into consideration when you are moving onto a new market. But basically, all the top managers of the Western companies are saying that we are also considering the Russian market because you have way more creative people on the market, people who are willing to find some creative solutions to problems, and it's of high value. But I'm also agree with Vladimir Nikolaevich, there is no some structured demand that we need these kind of professionals. But why am I saying the situation is changing? Because our life is changing, our economy is changing, our industries are going through some modification, and it's also related to a changing of the occupations and jobs. While many centuries ago, people would have dynasties, the trade would be handed over from generation to generation. If you're a blacksmith, your son will be a blacksmith, and the son of your son will be a blacksmith. Now, in 20th century, each generation would choose their own professions, and now we're moving towards a situation when every individual will change several occupations through his or her lifetime. And I think in this new paradigm, the need for this type of creative, intuitive, you name it, aspects to our professions will be higher. So our people have very high potential in this regard. That's my firm belief. Going back to those three basic moments that you've identified about the knowledge and the skills and creativity, intuition, and something else, I would agree with them, but not completely, because I believe that due to the fact that life changes. There'll be different professions. Now it's more important for us to give a priority to being creative. Second place would be taken by the basic knowledge, but the skills, yes, they are needed. But like I said before, we are seeing already, but the required set of skills are changing. It is not something that you can teach a child, and the child will be using one set of skills throughout their lifetime. 2 or 3 ideas I would like to add. Number one, as it was already articulated today, and I think it's a very noble case, basically building the infrastructure, technopark, and working with teenagers and things like that. And secondly, it's being in demand, but not only from the standpoint of the market demand, but what Alexandre said, that I do not see yet, maybe I'm mistaken, but I do not see yet a popular demand for these type of properties. I'm thinking back to my childhood. Back when I was a kid, I would go to different sections, to different children's clubs, and some of my friends would go to avia modeling, somebody would go to some other sections, hobby clubs. Now I do not think the kids go to any hobby clubs like we used to when we were children, and parents do not want this kind of value, because the parents want their children to learn foreign languages, to do good in school. Please lift up your hand, dear audience, if you in your family have your children, grandchildren, older, younger. And do your kids attend any hobby clubs? I guess it's a quality of our audience. And secondly, I think that it happens due to your own activity, because many of us who are here, I was asking this question in a different context about 1 year ago. There was no single hand put up in the air. They would never send their kids to this kind of hobby clubs or recreation clubs. And lastly, the last thing which I believe is very important is some basic values, and I will clarify what I mean. And can we bring up an inventor? This is the topic of our discussion today. And I believe that it's way more interesting today to discuss of how can we do it and what stops in the way. And here I would fully support Ivan, as he's saying about the difference between the innovator and inventor. It doesn't matter how you call it, but indeed, oftentimes it's very hard to make innovators inventors. Or scientists do not always make very successful tech entrepreneurs. We've had so many discussions and so many conversations. What's lacking? Lack of money, that of infrastructure, and things like that. And another thing that I was studying carefully last year, there was a research done with Alexander Auzan. He's the dean of the Moscow State University Department of Economics. And the topic of our study was comparing the basic values of scientists and tech entrepreneurs. Nobody tried to do it before. Nobody tried to measure it, and we've done some survey of some scientists. Scientists are involved in basic science and fundamental science and applied science, and technological entrepreneurs. Many questions have been asked about what are their values in life, and it turned out that the difference is very big. And I think it's one of the reasons of what Ivan said. It's hard or impossible to make a scientist an inventor. And their values are very different in many aspects. Some of our findings have been expected, others not. Among those who we have polled, the 5 top values, along with family safety and security, along with freedom, we've seen such value as friendship. Scientists are lacking friendship as value. Why is it the case? I guess it takes a separate study. Or what's surprising that out of 30 basic values that have been offered, the richness, was on the place 27. Our society believes that the entrepreneurs are usually people who would like to make money. And they say, no, the drivers are different. It's not wealth. It is not wealth. We are living by some other things. And, well, you would disagree. I do not think it was an anonymous survey. Yeah, I will agree with you. There is some correlation, but scientists said that the wealth in their list of priorities is ranking 27 out of 30. But entrepreneurs, one of the professors answered in such discussion, I don't want to be wealthy, but I'm ashamed to be poor. Here you can argue about whether these people were open, honest in their answers, but we've done this research not only among Russian scientists and entrepreneurs, but also among American ones. And we've done the same type of research in Republic of Kazakhstan, and the basic things have been much more closer between the countries, because the differences were more between individuals. Why am I speaking about that right now? Because again, it's going back to the value of children's hobby clubs. Even the preschool training and education. These are the things which are imposed on the children in the childhood. Sometimes we have great curricula, but the basic values cannot be changed later. And maybe these are the new mechanisms, and I think it will be more efficient. Actually, he stole some of my bread. I wanted to speak about the value matrix. The second was my second question. I didn't know of your plan. No, it was on the website. The question about values is indeed very critical. But I'm asking another question. We believe that there is one important competence that a perfect future inventor should possess. The one we envision is the high degree of communication skills, and understanding the value of perceptions. But today, the trend that is presenting itself in the system of education, especially of the general education in cities, this would be the biggest trends in agglomeration, results in a child coming to a school and staying in the school for 7 and 8 hours in the same communication field, the same kids. They go take their courses, and then in the same school building they do some additional classes, and then they're locked up in the same social strata, with the same social and cultural aspects, and in this regard the child is not growing and developing, and that notion of emotional intellect is not developing. Everybody's speaking about emotional intelligence. It was my command, it's my pain, so I believe that the general education system, it has to follow one of the two models. The one that we're seeing in Moscow, it's agglomeration and immersing children in all alternative time spending pastime in the school. And second is to leave to the school that functionality which it has been mandated initially, that is teaching the subject matters. And then at 12 o'clock the child should go, let loose. And then, like Alexey said, that neither parents nor children are not willing to go somewhere, to commute somewhere. And we're saying that, okay, we'll do it ourselves, we'll do the centralized logistical support, of the students around Moscow Technopolis and bring them to our Techno Park, and then months later they'll be ready to go there on their own. But first, it's a barrier for them to communicate. Parents are not ready. And this is my question to everyone in the audience. What's your perspective? What are the values that should be in that kind of perfect person, I guess, then to write it down, to create some methodologies, and then create a critical mass of such people in our societies? Dmitry, would you take this question? Well, Marina, you know how to you know how to ask questions, yeah. What I'm observing right now, it's very, very curious, because on one hand, yes, one lack of communication skills that can be seen in public schools. I'm sorry for what I'm about just to say, that this kind of lack of communication skills is blocking the creative potential in children. I'll be speaking as a father now. We do not have Mr. Kalina with us. Anyhow, I totally agree that on the level of secondary education we have problems, and they are systemic, and they will be remaining so in the following years, even decades. And I believe that the additional education, interest clubs and groups, like programmers are saying, it's a workaround. It's one case. The second case is internet. The second situation is internet, and how our modern children compensating the lack of communication fellowship in real life. And I think we also have to pay attention to the trend of communication in internet and in social media. And whenever we do any programs for continuing education, additional educational, we have to take a closer look at what our children like. And I'm deeply convinced they do not like to they do not like to talk in person, communicate in person. And we have to draw our conclusions, and employers and the system of public schools. Now we're thinking about that and building the modules of communication between children. We have specialized classes. We have holding helicopters of Russia. In the last several years, they've created in the Moscow region about a dozen of the helicopter flying school, and they are using this networking communication, networking interaction between the instructor and children, using internet technologies and social media. As for the values, as for the value profile, or the value profile of our children, generally speaking, our children are on their own by design, and they fit very well the profile of the future innovator, because usually their interests are far away from immediate profit and getting immediate revenue. Just based on what I've been observing, talking to children, talking to students, they are looking at two things. Number one would be their own life strategy. This is how I'll put it. They are thinking about what are the benefits, what will be the benefits in the long term, and secondly, they make decisions and judgments emotionally. So I guess, speaking of my generation, generation of people back in the 90s, I think that they have this component to a lesser extent. And I think these kind of two properties, I wouldn't call them values. It's a certain romanticism on one hand, and trying to look into the future. These two traits are dominating, and they have to be taken into account when we are deliberating about training new innovators. Vladimir, what will you say? Well, now we are beginning to give examples. I suppose that we'll have some real-life examples that we have seen and witnessed, and based on that, based on our own feelings, we are trying to develop the logic of where we want to go. I will emphasize once again, the situation has many aspects. I fully agree with what has been said before, but the main problem is not where a child is studying in a school, in a specialized center, or in a university. This should be done in a real life situation. I think another problem, we're speaking about communication, but what type of communication do we imply? There is a real communication and the digital footprint when kids are sitting on the internet. So virtualization, they're totally different than when they present themselves in real life and in real life communication. And I think one of the present problems is alienation. Alienation from real life, alienation from history, alienation from detachment from history, and so forth, because the virtual world is pressing on us more and more. It is not a street, it's not a family, but in social media, children they open up more, and this type of communication now is of critical importance. And we can giggle, we can sneer about it, but I think it's a major risk now when it comes to information security. It is not about the viruses online. I'm speaking about, well, it all makes sense about when it comes to cybersecurity. But what I'm speaking about is more of a systemic nature. It has a special effect on children. So I believe that to solve the problem of and I want to emphasize, you can see it with a naked eye. You can give examples, and everybody will be saying, no, there is no alienation, no, there is detachment and alienation with modern children, and people are different. And how about putting this all together? Or building an environment where the children will be able to meet, children of different generation. They'll be able to see the technical components, the creative, the inventive, in entrepreneurship. But building this kind of environment is of an essence. It doesn't matter where it will be. And this is the problem number one. And secondly, it's about navigation. Navigation, we have to teach the children, because now information is more and more. We cannot treat it only on an intellectual level. We have to teach our kids of how to work with information. We have to teach them how to perceive information, how to find information, aggregate it, synthesize it, and then to turn it into a particular knowledge, and so forth. And this will be done by that environment that you've been speaking about. So it is not as important as where it will be done, in a house or outside, on a street, in a small community, or in a school, or in a special centers, your quantoriums, as you refer them to. I think that this is very important to build this kind of environment. And overcoming this alienation, this loneliness, it's something that we have to deal with. And results are seen. And it's not only our problem, it's a general problem of our society. Of course, we can speak about, like China, we can disconnect the internet, or we can block or filter the internet, but this is not a real solution. It is not a solution, like you said, because it's not about the value, but we're speaking about some competences, like Dmitry said. Competences and data scouting is #1 priority. We totally agree with it, because we have a statistic that the average person is changing their occupation 8 times throughout their lifetimes, but the competences of seeking for information, synthesizing, making an assumption based on this information, it's becoming is becoming almost the goal number one. Even when we speak about quantoriums, which have initially been opened about for everyone, it's about the technical creativity. No, the goal number one is the soft competences, data counting, communications, being able to think clearly, to make an assumptions, and then working in a team. It doesn't matter who the child will be, the manager in a theater, manager in a corporation or elsewhere, they'll have the basic life competences, not even to be able to adapt themselves dynamically for the changes in our societies. But these kids will have competences to build that culture of change which we can see in the world. Thank you. Ivan, maybe you would like to share something about values, if you will. I agree with what you've said and with what Vladimir has said, that if we're speaking about innovators, we need by any means possible to increase the children's communication, live communication between themselves in teams, maybe outside of their school time. But how they'll be communicating, it doesn't matter that much. And I'm standing my ground that an inventor, you've been speaking about soft skills, communication skills. Well, an inventor is an individualist by nature. It's about himself or herself. And this is the big difference between the innovator. Innovator is also an inventor, but innovator will need a team anyway. And increasing the amount of time that the kids will be working in teams, building up their team skills and soft skills, like in a soccer, like in a sport, working together on innovation, we believe that we need to find different kind of solutions. And I also wanted to add a couple of examples to what Alexey has been said, that we also have to pay attention to that. And what would be a competitive advantage of Russia? It's creativity. After several shots of alcohol, those our foreign colleagues who have come with their factories and companies, they're criticizing our educational system. They're saying, how can it be that, the person is being taught biotechnologies and then they're coming to our pharmaceutical company, AstraZeneca. They know everything about pills and moleculars, but they do not know how to supply, transport, how to store, how to sell. All of this has to be done to them. It's about integrated training. But after several shots of alcohol, when you speak with these foreigners, they say, of course, it's all the nonsense. If you'll do it in Russia, we do not need you. You're valuable by your creativity, by being able, and Russians have been referred to as being able to come up with wild ideas, unconventional ideas, because sometimes in Russia you have to seek some very creative solutions, which may not be required in richer countries. So it has an element of invention, but we are primarily want to understand that when you kind of developing these skills in a team through a play, a game, it's much more efficient than for an innovator in the game of innovation. I would agree with Alexey regarding parents' values. I would like to give you two examples, and I suspect that those colleagues of ours who have lifted up their hands that their children go to some interesting hobby clubs. Maybe it could be a dance club and sport clubs, and you name them. But instead of technology or math or something like that, we have the Center for the Youth, Innovative and Technological Creativity. It is headed by a young guy. He is a psychologist himself, and he needs to attract youngsters and the kids into his Center for Creativity, that they would be a part of these different clubs and groups. They have quite a good and nice facility, and he is studying what parents want and parents do not react to newest technologies, even 3D printing. And he's saying, we are teaching you chess, and you have to pay for it. And parents think, okay, chess is great, we're willing to pay for it. And the kids go to these centers, and while they're studying the game of chess, they're studying different robots, doing handshakes and baking pancakes and stuff like that. So he's getting them addicted. The kids came to learn to play chess, but they end up studying technologies.
Or you're familiar with Sirius Center. They work with athletes. They're actually a sports club. And those athletes also require education. One has to educate athletes, chess players, belly dancers, and so forth. They explain theories to them, equations, and so forth, which may not be required in sports wrestling or gymnastics. They use their gymnastic exercises as examples to explain various theorems and laws of physics, helping them to improve their skills. And there are technologies that those kids master, which can be helpful to them in their interest clubs. There are plenty of such interesting things we think should be developed to help us engage children in such teamwork. And for this, we require two elements of such teamwork. We require it in schools because there are interesting interest groups in schools and so forth, and they do exist out of schools. We have thousands and thousands of children's interest groups across Russia, and not only aircraft mocking up, those children creating, making drones and so forth. We should engage more and more children in order to help them spend more leisure time on teamwork. I'm not going to dwell upon the topic of values for a long time. I joined this discussion a bit later than planned. Instead, I refer back to a pretty trivial thing I've been mentioning for many years. We should do something at the state level for innovation, invention, technology-related entrepreneurship to be valued higher in the society, which is not the case today. It's not highly valued by either the government or mass media or filmmakers, etc., etc. A lot has been mentioned about that so far, but nothing is changing. State awards are given to lady farmers, bureaucrats. Very often those awards are given for good reasons, but there are no awards for entrepreneurs. And we hear very few stories about businessmen achievements. If we fail to change the situation, there will be no demand or interest on the part of either parents or children. I remember some 5 years ago, we were supporting a business contest, and as part of this work, our Russian finalists were taken to the USA as part of the jury board and familiarized myself with all the projects. And there was an American guy of some 19 or maybe even 13, he had created a plastic dock station for a film. He was their hero, their champion, not only in that circle, but even out of it. And he saw how cool it was, and he decided to build upon that, which means that it's a pretty long-term process. We should support it. I fully second to that. There was even presidential award, and then it just disappeared, was boiled down to zero. I spoke to a 5-year-old boy. Do you remember, Mr. President, telling him, look, you're a great man like myself? You're right, Alexey. We should give it an impetus, sponsor it, fully support. Great. Therefore, one of the conclusions should be no microphone. Sorry for that. No microphone. Well, it does not exist anymore. It happened 3 years ago, and it does not exist anymore. There is another program, beautiful program, but it's not supported by the government. We need some push on the part of the government. Okay, we'll get back to that in April 1917. Now I suggest that you offer microphone to our attendees, namely the head of Serious Center, Talent and Success Center. Our science is still at very high level with all those contests. What we have been discussing, innovation and invention, these two things are deeply interconnected. And Serious Center does not only deal with R&D, it also deals with invention and innovation. Lina, what do you think about the values we should develop in our children who will be building Russia's innovative economy of the future? I'd like to continue the discussion that we've had so far. I don't totally agree with all those who spoke before me. Speaking about tools, we should also mention putting means in place. We've discussed that many times. We also should keep in mind the durability of those tools and their depth. We should follow how those children develop, motivate them, offer incentives to them in the strategy that we are discussing. Speaking the strategy of science and technology development in Russia in the context of the challenges that we face is actually the ideology that serves footing for the project-based activities that we have been supporting, and the activities that require teamwork, friendship, mutual support, discussion of solutions that our children can find with the help of their tutors and supervisors. Well, all those things should be done with future changes in view, how they can influence upon those changes, including all the benefits of it for the people and economy. This should be one of the biggest motivators for the future innovative development. Those children don't think about money. They think about their inventive work, their lifestyle, and those people who help them, they also proceed from a different system of values. One can say, I have $1 million, but I'm happy because I have created 1 million jobs, which is much more important. We should also focus on the ethical aspects of new technology development. Why? Because it yields us 2 or even 3 interpretation levels, and such interpretation is extremely important today because it helps us to change the world. Speaking about information technology and artificial intelligence research, we should also think about the algorithms which should be used in order to bring up non-biological brain matter, while also helping our children to become true leaders or revolutionaries. We should explain that even if his or her idea is not liked by everybody, it does not mean that it should be given up. Thank you for your comment. You have touched upon a very important thing, such as ethical education and value metrics. In this country, a lot of people work on creating artificial intelligence. Show me a hand, those of you who know about Isaac Asimov's laws. The basics of the artificial intelligence is actually the theory iPhone users are well familiar with. And 90% of you have iPhones. So we have been speaking about robotechnics laws from Isaac Asimov. Well, I asked my child about those laws. She knows nothing about them. It's very important for us to understand how we bring up humans and how we bring up artificial intelligence. Show me hands, those of you who want to ask questions to our speakers for us to understand the scope of our Q&A session. So let's proceed to your questions because one of the speakers has to leave us shortly. Your questions, please. Good afternoon. My question is as follows. I'm concerned about 2 points, actually. Ivan mentioned individual inventors, or even individualist inventors. Such inventors should not be taken for individualists. All inventors have to work with other people, including patent givers, designers. Well, if you as an inventor does not know how to work with those folks, you are not an inventor, you're just a black box, and you are not going to give birth to any meaningful invention. And there are differences between inventors and innovators, although they are alike. Was it on purpose that you underscored that inventors shouldn't be taken for individualists? This is my first question. The second one, and it's closely related to the first one, the environment in which any creative person works is based on infrastructure, where we have to distinguish infrastructure components. Whatever inventive idea we come up with, other people will always be involved, a team with all its specificities. Some people are lucky, being both inventors and innovators, while others may not, being just inventors. So what do you think? And this brings me back to higher learning, which topic is closer to me. Such transformation, should it serve basis for those people? And should there be more specific things in place to help transform inventions into innovative projects? Ivan, this question goes to you and to Vladimir Nikolaevich, your colleague. Well, I'll allow to answer the first part of your question, since I am part of the higher learning system. Let's respect ourselves, by the way, and not forget to introduce ourselves when speaking. Very often I go off topic. Maybe I was overwhelmed when speaking. I mentioned communications when speaking about innovators. What you were referring to is extremely important. We should find inventors wishing to be part of teamwork in order to participate to the innovative process, because now innovation can be, no invention can be truly valuable without innovation. Very many young inventors are individuals who don't know how to work as part of a team. So I suggest that we distinguish between those, and I met a lot of such people, though, who don't need any team, maybe just a patent bureau official, but they don't need any helpers in working on the actual invention. They just don't like the idea, don't welcome it. The second part of the question should go to you, Vladimir, I think. I use technical word for it because we have been discussing technology. Well, there is an answer in your question. Since we are discussing high-tech and high-tech based entrepreneurship, how many scientists can we have on an average? Some 5%. How many innovators? Maybe 7 or 8. I'm speaking about 8 creative countries such as Russia. How about the rest of 85%? We are speaking about a very narrow circle. Do we need such scientists and innovators? Of course we need, at least for their expert examination capability. It's not a must that they should be scientists. Not to make sure, well, do we need other types of people? There may be creative individual inventing something, but we need specific products based on those inventions. Of course, we need such people. Inventors being grassroots, and those people being actual grass. We don't train 100% of scientists or innovators in our technology universities. And again, we have to discuss environment. If there is conducive environment, it will yield us such people after maybe some second year of university, whether you want it or not. There is such an environment. Therefore, there is an answer in your question. My name is Alexey Kolesnik. I'm a PhD inventor with 16 invention certificates. I apologize for having not introduced me in the very beginning. Next question. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Alexander Yudehin, and my question goes to Marina Rakova. Could you give us more details about Quantorium Technology Park? What are the prospects of this project? Which modules are comprised by the training program, and what is the final product of such technology park? Where will children be able to apply the knowledge obtained there? I suggest that we discuss this question offline because it does not, it fails to fall within the main topic of our session. Let's exchange contact details. My name is Ksenia Ivanova, Rosatom Academy. We have been mentioning the system of values every now and then. Alexey mentioned it. Where can I read about it today? And can you name some 5 key values for scientists and successful entrepreneurs? Thank you. If you give me your contact details, I'll give you more detailed information about it. All those publications are being finalized currently, and in a couple of months you will be able to read them, and not only you. Answering your question briefly, and you mentioned 5 key values for scientists and entrepreneurs. Number 1, and it is the case for all the countries, is the security of the family and all those near and dear. Safety and security is not directly linked with entrepreneurship. For the scientists, number 2 is interesting life. I'm not going to comment on my understanding of it, so it's exciting and interesting life. Number 3 is self-esteem. Number 4 is creativity. And number 5 is freedom. For business people, freedom is number 2. And number 3 is self-esteem, friendship, and interesting life. In total, there were some 30 items. I'm not going to mention all of them. Well, that study was not confined to these values. It also covered how the scientists and business people took the innovative process, what they thought about the time plane, final result, final product. You're welcome. Microphone. I'm sorry, no microphone is used. I cannot hear the question. The microphone is either not used or switched off. $200 is too much, but you could earn 20,000 rubles in the Soviet days for a great invention, which would be enough to buy a brand new car, full size. Well, the point is that very often people would invent for money. Now, it wasn't done for money, but money was paid for good inventions. It's okay if you invent it for money. What should be done to make people invent? This is the question. And how to transform invention, the inventive process, into business. I don't think it is a useful approach. What should be done to make sure that inventors' ideas are transformed into business? Well, this can be, this is the right approach. And only if this is possible can inventors become innovators. Self-importance is very important. Meaningfulness is important for inventors and innovators. They fulfill their potential through transforming their inventions into products. We should look for such innovators, bring them up, incentivize, but it's not worthwhile just concentrating in business. As you may know, there were inventors with some 1,500 inventions. There was a guy, Nikolai Durenko, with 3,000 inventions. Mr. Litorenko, a hero of socialist labor. Igor Taratuta, Igor Kuskin with between 1 and 2,000 inventions, which inventions were used by all the Soviet days factories and plants. And there was another guy, a pretty famous one, whose inventions were not used by anybody. Nothing should be done based on the approach that you are suggesting. Well, bringing up inventors cannot be an uncontrollable process. Not for money. The money should not be the primary goal. All those inventors who want to earn money today can earn money. There are all the opportunities for them to earn money. I can offer you thousands of examples, 1,000 examples. Give me your email address and I will send you case studies. They work for million ruble companies and they are awarded million ruble prizes. Microphone, please. No microphone. All those engaged in this process are helpful. Well, I suggest that you ask your next question, please. You're welcome. My name is Alexander. When I worked at school, I was in charge of an interest group. And I was a member of such an interest group when I was a schoolboy. I was interested in radio technologies. Then I studied. Then I operated sophisticated equipment. Then I studied again. Then I was engaged in maintenance and repair. Then I became a scientific worker. Then I was put in charge of other scientific workers, researchers. Well, I have experience in very many professions. I'd like to say thank you to all the speakers for discussing this topic. And I wish Mr. Medvedev and Mr. Kudrin were here. For many decades, I've heard about the innovative development path. Mr. Michael Gorbachev was the first to start dreaming about that. They all dream about that, but they don't know anything about how to achieve that. They only speak about that. We read a lot about that in newspaper headlines, but there are no migration paths. So the question is, if it's really possible to bring up inventors, there'll be no innovative development without inventors and innovators. And I dare to say there will be no such path for this country if we only rely upon newspaper headlines. Well, all those people who are present here, they are representatives of the various funds and foundations and endowments, and their goal is eventually to earn money. You all want to earn money. We remember how it was in the Soviet days when first self-sustained organizations appeared, you remember what happened to the science. People refocused on earning money instead of doing scientific research. And today we require a very serious system, very serious strategy or approach. So I hope that next year, by the next forum, you will pass it over, this message, to Mr. Kudrin, Mr. Medvedev. It is here that the birth is given to the innovative future of this country. I agree with all the participants of this discussion. In many ways, you're all right. I'm not going to put your ideas to question. It's great that there are concerns, that you are thinking about reforming our school education. I'll give you an example. Some time ago, I met a leader of an interest group and asked him how things were. He said that his salary was only 20,000 rubles. And then I asked if children did anything. Did they have parts, tools? And he answered that they had nothing. He pays his own money to buy parts for those models, mock-ups. As to schools, they are expected to concentrate on more serious things. Universities, the same. Thank you very much. As moderator, I'll allow myself to interrupt you. Dmitry Anatolovich and Alexey Ivanovich require my protection. Let me assure you both, as well as the other top-level leaders of this country, are concerned about what we have been discussing in this room so far. The fact that we have so few people here may mean that the others are working on specific ideas, looking for conditions and mechanisms that will allow us to move in this direction, working in the field. Although the people working in the field are not enough. And I hope that the next major event at which Dmitry Anatolovich is going to take part is going to take place on the 27th of February in the city of Sochi. I suggest that you join the club. Now we only have time for the last question, colleagues. You're welcome, and then we'll wrap up.
Dear colleagues, Marina and everyone, it has been mentioned that we are lacking people in the fields. My name is Leonid Primak, co-chair of the system of identifying promising youth. And since we are hard-pressed for time and we need to make sure our young people communicate more, talk more to one another, I would like to show you a couple of slides in my presentation that we already have such a system. We have over 5 years of experience of applying this system. We can see that the number of the school-age children, students, number of participating schools, participating entities is over 5,000, 1,400, 500, and so on. And we believe that one of the significant results of our forum will be to get to know these materials. And you can see a very big article which has been published in the City Sociology magazine, and you'll be able to join our forces and have the synergy effect when applying this formula. Please flip through the slides, and I'm open to your questions. The system has been time-proven. We can scale it up, and the most valuable thing is that it is supported by one of the governors and several stakeholders and major organizations, including IGS Group. And I just came back from the IGS Group Technopolis in Kaliningrad region, when there was an international competition of the school-age students for mathematics. Leonid, thank you very much. I think we'll ask the organizing committee to upload this on a website to make it downloadable. Hi, my name is Philip. I'm the dean of the faculty in my school. Very interesting discussion, a very in-depth study. But what I've misunderstood, what shall we do with the adults? It's very good that people who have to think about the production, investment, manufacturing, they're speaking about values, and it's a trend that we have seen it in many different discussions in Moscow and beyond. But we do know that children copy adults. They copy adults. They do what we do, not what we say to them. And we have such a discipline, we call it a life navigation. We have realized that we have to talk to freshmen about that when they first begin their studies in universities. But when we did the career development for faculty who were supposed to teach these very schools, we had psychological breakdowns, because when people are asked questions, what have you achieved in your life? What's your course? What are your life goals and resources and things like that? People begin to understand that they cannot teach this very course to teenagers because they're all messed up in their own lives. And in this regard, my question is, I do not know how to answer it myself. Yes, now we can say a lot about how should we build the ecosystem, and I fully support Yelena when she says that we need ecosystems for the interaction between adults and adolescents, and it's a purely Russian trait that we do not accept riches and wealth. It's genetic, it goes down to history, but even Russian peasants were by type entrepreneurs, and this contradiction is overcome through creativity, grand goals, beautiful ideas, and giving up money as main motivation. So until we will begin to live like that as adults, children will not be able to replenish this model of behavior. Maybe some of our speakers would like to comment this question statement. Yes, we can comment, but we cannot answer. How about IB schools? Do you know them? Have you heard about them? They've tried to answer this question of what to do with adults, and so IB school. I will also give a comment. It's impossible to answer, but I'll give you a funny answer. Supposedly, maybe you have not heard about that. Two people, let's say these two guys, one is inventor, second is scientist, is standing under the tree. The tree is all lit up in magical ways, and one is asking another, do you understand what it is? And the second one is saying, well, see, now I'll explain it. No, I can explain it. Do you understand? So it's about these kind of questions many people can explain, but to understand how to make it, very few people. But if we'll not do it from the very first steps, it's like you, Yelena, myself, Ivan, Alexey, and Vladimir, and many other people, they are dealing with a very painful point and painful aspect of our lives. And we've tried to discuss and at least two things I've heard from myself, and I believe it will be included in our agenda. It's professional development and building environment to make sure that we can calibrate our requirements for the future child, for the child or future adults in innovative economy, and those people who are trying to bring them up. It's a first step that we can do. Very first steps, and people who are sure that they can do that. It's another question about education, that especially technical education in our country is built on the level of proofs, not on the level of convictions. And when we make examples of those competition winners and things like that, when the kids, gifted kids, promising kids, they gather together, sometimes outdoors, making bonfire, and something about Mr. Kalina, and so they bought some buckets, zinc coated buckets. And this winner of the all Russian competition in physics is trying to extricate one bucket from the other. They're all stacked, and bringing it onto the fire, and it happens. And then he's saying, like, how are you? Don't you know about the expansion of the metal? He knows. I know, but I didn't think you can apply the theory of metals expansion when heated. And until we will get this conviction, this assuredness in these theories and laws that we have, until kids will be able to apply it, it will not be a result. It will not be result of any innovations activities. There might be some inventions, but not a product for the market. Colleagues, thank you very much. I would like to thank my colleagues for finding time for coming over. I'm hoping that we will provide you with a report of our discussion. Thank you and have a good day.